Yo, welcome back to my channel. Listen, as always, I'm so glad that y'all here. I'm so glad that y'all back. Listen, as you can tell by the title, we're gonna be talking about just how I feel about being single at 35. Let's get into it. So y'all, I do got some videos coming through. I really do. I have been, just got back from a vacation not too long ago, so this week I'm about to be pushing them out. Hopefully y'all can hear me because I'm not using my mic. But anyway, let's get into it. So originally, how this video came about was because I had, last year I told y'all I have been, doing a whole lot of videos on TikTok, and in a while I kind of got distracted. You know what I'm saying? I kind of got distracted from sitting here talking to y'all. YouTube is my baby. Like, YouTube is where I started. So, but I'm back. Y'all know I've been posting on, YouTube a little bit regularly, kind of, sort of. Maybe not. Maybe that's a little bit too far. But anyway, I did a video that went viral 7 months on TikTok. I don't even know what it was about. I just know it was something about singleness and people desiring, love or something like that. But I think it was something about how I felt about it. I don't even know. But there was this girl who circled back around about a month ago, and she was like, "Hey, it's 7 months later. I'm looking for a 7-month update. Can you give us an update on your singleness?" And I was like, "Wow!" And you know what's crazy is because I laughed when I saw it, because if you would have told me that when I started my YouTube journey that I was going to be a content creator that was going to come online and talk about my dating experience, my dating desire, I would have been like, nah, I don't want to do that. Because when I originally started YouTube and started content creating, it was originally supposed to be geared to men and helping them with confidence, which is what my journey is all about, specifically Christian men. You know what I'm saying? Helping us, get in better shape, helping us be more confident in life, and of course talking to women, but just navigating navigating this world, having never been him, but now coming into your confidence, and now you are him. You know what I'm saying? That's what my channel was originally supposed to be about. But it all started with me talking about my dating app experience back in 2021. And I literally thought that video was just gonna, I didn't even think people was gonna watch it, but I started talking about my dating app experience, and that video took off. Like, to this day, that is my most viewed YouTube video, and people were just like so invested in, like, my dating experience, my dating app experience. And so what happened was, and so from there I just began to talk about my dating experiences, and so it led to me talking to you guys, and it led to TikTok. And so, but TikTok, they enjoy my story times about my dates and women that I've encountered and all this stuff. And I remember during that time, like, asking God, like, with gaining a following on TikTok and gaining a following on YouTube, I began to ask God, like, as a single Christian man, I do a lot of times have thoughts like, is singleness my ministry, or is singleness just my experience? You know what I'm saying? I have been invited to, speak at a dating event. I've had people, hit me up for consultations, and people are just like, yo, we want to know, like, what's going on. And so I'm gonna be honest, like, I look at a lot of, social media content creators, such as Dear Future Wifey, like, such as Latarius. And I know a lot of people were like, saying that he had no desire to get married because his singleness, it was his business. And I think we all know singleness sells. Like, singleness sells. Like, people love talking to single people because I feel like it's a lot of us. And one thing about singleness, like, people will capitalize of it. People will capitalize of it, especially if you are a content creator that's talking about being single. Listen, what happens when you get with somebody? Like, what happens when you come on here and you're married? A lot of people feel like that's the end all be all and that's it. So, hey, I got to keep this going. For me, it's definitely not like that. Like, if I was to get into a relationship and get married tomorrow, I probably would be done. And it's funny, I wouldn't say I would be done. I used to get this question all the time on TikTok, like, yo, what happens when you get into a relationship? Like, are you still going to be talking about relationship content? Are you still, like, what happens? What's your content going to be about next? And I joked about this, but I was low-key serious. if I was to get into a relationship and get married soon, I'm gonna be that type of content creator that is, listen, we gonna be that married couple that all we gonna do is go on cruises and come on here and review them. That's all we gonna do. Like a few months ago, I got so like caught up in the whole TikTok vlogging world on YouTube and on TikTok, man. I used to get off work earlier this summer at 11 o'clock and would just come home and binge watch couple cruise vlogs. Like, I want to go on a cruise so bad. Like, y'all don't even know. But I'm planning one for next year. But anyway, but that's what I would do. That's what me and my person would do. Like, we gonna be that older couple, that middle-aged couple, that all we gonna be doing is coming in here and talking about cruises. Talking about how we just got off Virgin Voyages. Tomorrow we going on a Royal Caribbean. And next week we going on Carnival. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would do. Now, I'm slightly joking, but I don't know. But other than that, like, I've always said that if I got into a relationship, I would want my content. I think my content is going to be more travel. Like, and that's what I always wanted to do too, is like, you know, do more content as it relates to travel and lifestyle and fashion and just even my music and talking about faith. And I'm doing that now. Like, I don't just talk about relationships, but I'm doing more of that now. I did just come back from Miami. Y'all go see that Miami vlog. Today is Sunday. That's going to be posted here in a second. So I was just like, yo, you know what? Maybe I'll do a video just talking about, just giving an update of where I am as a 35 single Christian dude. Like, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like this video is going to be more so of like a documentation. So this is not going to be a whole lot of doom and gloom and like, oh, I'm single and I just hate my life and I hate it, but just more so of a documentation of just what I feel. And one thing I will say is, if I was to sum up my singleness journey by one word, number one, I would just say it has been a journey of transformation. And I feel like singleness is not just about status, but it should be about the transformation. How are you seeing yourself transform? One of the things, if y'all heard my story about how I overcame and am overcoming just low self-esteem. I went through my early 20s and in my teen years just thinking I was ugly, I was lame, I was corny and all that stuff. But through therapy, through prayer, through good friends, you know, I overcame that, you know, and I am overcoming that. And so one of the things that I have seen myself transform in my singleness is my feelings and my thought process of, why would somebody want me, to the mindset of, why wouldn't they want me? You know what I'm saying? I'm handsome, I'm talented, I'm confident, I'm a good dude, I love Jesus. Like, what woman wouldn't want that? You know what I'm saying? And I have seen myself transform into that guy, like, over the years. Like, 28 was I'm 35. At age 28 was when I started to go to therapy. And I remember going to my therapist and I was just like, yo, like, and I'm ugly, I'm lame, no woman want me. And he was just like, there is nothing wrong with you. And from that day on, it changed my life. It changed how I looked on life. It changed from how I talk, from how I dress, from how I walk into rooms, from how I interact with people and women. You know what I'm saying? Getting into the gym, working out every day at 6 a.m., like all of that. So I have seen myself transform. And so one thing I appreciate about my long journey of singleness is just the ability and the opportunity to transform into the guy that I know that I need to be, into the guy that I know God wants me to be, and into the guy that I know my wife, my girlfriend, would need me to be. You know what I'm saying? But even through all of that, I am ready for my story to change. Like, I think that's the ultimate desire for me, is to see my story change. Like, I have 3 of my guy friends, you know what I'm saying? They're all married. One of my friends, he lives in Atlanta, and I remember when I met he and his wife, you know, I was in my 20s. I was kind of like, I guess I was a late bloomer. You know what I'm saying? You know, my friends, they had already did the whole thing of going out and turning up. I was in my mid 20s. I had just started to, you know, turn up and get drunk and do all that stuff. So I kind of met them at that point in my life where he and his now wife, you know what I'm saying, they ain't had no kids. They weren't even engaged. They was just young, living in the city. They had packed up their life and moved. So we was going out every payday. Me and my friend in Atlanta, like, we worked together at that time, and we was going out turning up. You know, they would invite me, like, you know what I'm saying? And so it's funny because I look at them now and it's just like, my friend, like, they got 2 kids, like, his wife got her own business. She does content, and then he has a really great, sports, analyst job and all this stuff. And it's just like, one time I hit them up like, yo, and I asked them last year, I had saw them, they came into town, and we kind of went out, we turned up, and I was like, yo, when the last time y'all just turned up? When last time y'all had a drink? You know what I'm saying? And my friend was like, man, listen, I don't even know. Like, and it's just seeing how both of them, but seeing how my guy friend, just how his life transformed, you know what I'm saying, how he elevated to just being in, the party scene and being, to just now being a dad and now being a husband. All of my guy friends, just seeing how their story transformed, you know what I'm saying, and I can't help but to look at my own life like, man, I'm ready for that transformation. I'm ready for people to be like, yo, I remember Mark used to be talking about how he wanted, and now look at him, you know what I'm saying, he's a boyfriend, you know what I'm saying, he loved that woman, now he's a husband, now he's a father, and now look at his wife, him and his wife, they got the kid, you know what I'm saying, and now I'm ready for that transformation. I'm ready for that transformation of just not being the young single little brother in my family who just shows up to family functions by myself, and I talked about this on TikTok, where one of the defining moments where I knew I was ready for that change was in 2023. My family unexpectedly lost my cousin. And it was so crazy because it was like the first death in our family since my mom passed. And that was 2008. So it was like totally unexpected. It was on the 4th of July. And if you know anything about black families, like when people die in black families, we be at each other's house deep, you know what I'm saying, every day. And I started to realize like everybody was pulling up to, our family house, just coming from households. Just like my sister and her son, her grandkids, my other sister, her and her dude and her grandkids, and then my other sister, her and her boyfriend and her son. And I was coming from just a house of one every day with my family, having nobody to grieve with, having nobody to process my thoughts with. And that was a hard time for me. I just remember after the funeral, I just sat in the parking lot of a driveway in my car and just bawled my eyes out. And it was just like, it would have been nice. It would have been nice during that time to have somebody to process my thoughts with, to go home to grieve and say, yo, babe, this is how I feel. Like that, all of that would have been nice. But that's when I began to realize like, yo, I'm ready for my story to change. Even during holidays where it's just like everybody is coming from a household of 3 and 2 and 4, and I'm just coming along, like just sitting around like, okay, this is not, you know what I'm saying, I'm ready to have to introduce my family to somebody, So if you was to ask me how I felt about singleness, though, number one thing I would say at this point right now is I don't like it. Yeah, I said it. I do not like it. Now that doesn't mean I do not like my life. Now hold on, before you start to go into the self-love police, that does not mean I do not like my life. So before I say what I don't like about it, let me say what I do like about it. One thing I do like about it is that I'm not in drama. You know what I'm saying? I don't have no baby mama drama. I don't have no STDs. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying, I like my peace. You know what I'm saying? I like my peace. I like the fact that if I do want to do something, I can go do it. And you know what else I like about being single is the fact that it was a girl, she was on TikTok and she was like, one of the things that she's not going to be able to get used to, or she don't know how she's going to get used to, is sleeping in the bed with somebody, like after sleeping by herself for so many years. And I was like, yo, I get that. I said, but for me, I think the biggest thing for me that I'm gonna have to get used to is having somebody here while I'm eating. Because for me, what is a pleasure for me is just going to get some good food, coming back to the crib, putting on a show, watching YouTube, and just tearing up a 10-piece honey barbecue wing and not having nobody here to judge you. So like when I do get somebody, I'm going to be like, yo, can you like go in the other room while I eat this? Like, do you just got to be here? Can you, what I'm saying? Can you eat yours in the car? Cause it's just like, I'm not used to that. Like when I'm eating, like, it's just like my peaceful place. It's so funny. Cause my friend, he had, my friend I was just talking about, one of my friends, he got married and he's getting married in Costa Rica. And so he called me, he was like, yo man, I'm just calling to let you know, I just got married. And I was like, dude, and I just ordered DoorDash. You know what I'm saying? I just ordered DoorDash. But it's just like, that's one of my pleasures is eating. Like having some good food, you know what I'm saying? But aside from all that, like on a serious note, like I don't like being single right now. There was a girl who she had did a video on TikTok, and she was a Christian, and if I could have liked that video 1,000 times, I would. But she did a video just talking to Christians and saying you do not have to be content in your singleness. You know what I'm saying? In order to get somebody. And I was like, yo, that's so liberating. That is so liberating because I think when we teach stuff like, you know, you are rewarded for good behavior, you are rewarded with marriage and companionship for good behaviors, then it's just like, where does grace come in at? But then on the other end, you tell me that, you know, God blessed you with that job even though you wasn't good enough, and God blessed you with, you know, paying your rent even though you didn't do everything good. But when it comes to relationships, I have to do everything right. I have to be so positive. I have to, you know, dot my I's and cross my T's in order to get somebody. I don't know about all that. And so one of the reasons why I was just like, yo, that is so liberating is because in my humble opinion, it starts to place a false positivity on this outlook of singleness where you cannot be honest. I don't think God is mad at our honesty. Like, you know, it is okay to be honest and say, yo, I'm single, but I don't like it. And that's just where I am. Like, I am single, but I do not like being single. And what I mean by that is, let me just clear up some things, because I feel like when people look at my content, especially on TikTok, and they're like, oh my God, he's such a lover boy. Oh my God, he talk about love. Oh my God, he talk about marriage. When I talk about singleness, I don't know if I am as prepared or if I desire marriage as strongly as people think or as I should. Hear me out. Calm down. What I mean by that is that at this point in my life, I am not in the space where, as a single man, where it's just like, I'm ready to get married tomorrow. I'm getting ready to get married in 6 months. If I meet a girl tomorrow, I'm going to propose in 3 weeks. Like, for me, my utmost desire right now, before we get into marriage and contracts and covenants and all of that, my strongest desire right now is simply just for companionship. Like, before we talking about walking down the aisle and signing our life away, can I just find somebody to go get some ice cream with? Like at this point in my life, like, I'm not even gonna lie, like, I strongly desire finding somebody to do things with. Like, I just want somebody that's like, yo, I want to go to try this restaurant. Let's go. I want to go to this wine tasting. I want you to come with me. Let's take some nice pictures, and then all of that, and then let's, you know, have a time. I'll pay. I'll wine and dine. You enjoy my company. I enjoy your company. You know what I'm saying? And if and when it leads to something and it escalate, let me lead all that with. Like, there are a lot of days where I ain't gonna lie, I get lonely, and that doesn't mean and I'm not saying I hate myself. I don't love myself. I don't wash or bathe. It's just a simple fact that there are some days I just be looking around here like, man, I need a woman touch up in here. Like, I would love to have a godly, beautiful, nurturing woman in my life to lead and to pursue. You know what I'm saying? This past weekend, I had went to a couple weekends ago. I literally just came back from Miami. Miami was a vibe. Miami was really good. I went by myself. Anybody that knows me, I have always had this reputation for going places, like just up and going places alone, like especially when it comes to live music. I went to go see Benson Boone in Miami. Man, Benson Boone was amazing, but I went by myself and it was a good time. I had a good time, and so I've done that before. I remember years ago I had really wanted to go to Sweetie Pie's restaurant. Man, I packed up, went to Sweetie Pie's restaurant. I remember, you know, I had wanted to go to this museum in Nashville. I went to this museum in Nashville. Like, I've always been that type of person in my single life where it's just like, if I want to go do something, I'm gonna go do it. You know what I'm saying? And so I told one of my friends when I was in Miami this past weekend, I was just like, I'm not even gonna hold you. I was just like, I think I'm starting to get to that point, which I have kind of been for a while. Like, I don't want to do solo travel no more. Like, yeah, I don't want to do solo travel. I don't really enjoy it as much. You know, somebody, you know, commented, was like, oh man, you living a life. And I was like, yeah, I'm in Miami turning up another notch. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, I want somebody here with me. You know what I'm saying? And usually when I go on a solo trip, I usually start to feel that way at nighttime. And the reason being is because like I like solo travel is because like when it comes to the nightlife, like I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, let me go turn up and find, oh, I'm by myself, let me go. Like usually it's just like I'm not immersed into the whole club and going out solo culture. Like I'll go to a lounge with friends if it's an event, but just to go out turning up and like by myself and be like, yo, I'm about to go find me a couple, that ain't my thing, you know what I'm saying? And so I told my friend, I was just like, yo, I'm ready to have somebody. Like I'm ready to do stuff with somebody, you know. And I understand marriage is the end goal. And hey, as a man of God, I do desire that as well. But for right now, like I do desire that godly, pure, evolving companionship, not casual, but evolving companionship. And one of my friends, she had went on Pop the Balloon, and she had met this guy. And I was just like, yo, like he is a really great guy. Like he knew his scripture. He knew the word. I think he was about 33. And I was just like, yo, this is the guy that you should be, you should be going out with. And she said to me, she's like, yeah, we talked, we exchanged numbers. She was like, but he ain't serious. He don't want nothing right now. He too outside. He too outside. And so she had sent me his profile on Instagram. And when I looked at his profile, he had one picture on a yacht and a girl was in a thong, and he just, you could just tell, like, just from his whole profile, Buddy was outside. Like he was just, he ain't got time for nothing serious right now, right? And I began to think like nobody, and I was telling somebody, I was just like, that would never be me. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody would ever look at my profile. They would look at my profile and say, yo, this man loves Jesus. This man he's an artist. He can sing. He travels. You know what I'm saying? He has fun. He's confident. He look good. You know what I'm saying? But I would never be able to be that guy where somebody would look at my life or my Instagram and be like, man, Mark too distracted. He ain't got time. He too outside. He too busy, backpacking up the mountains of Tanzania. I don't even know if Tanzania have mountains, but he ain't got time for nothing serious either. Nobody would ever be able to say that about me. Because one thing about me, listen, I am ready for love. Like I am ready for what's next as it relates to my romantic relationship. You know what I'm saying? Now, one thing I will say is at this point in my life, as it relates to solo travel, I am itching. I don't know if it's because I'm about to be unk and I'm about to be 40, I'm 35, but I cannot wait to go on a solo cruise by myself, y'all. Like that is on my list for next year, is for me to go on a solo cruise. Now, it would be nice to have a beautiful young lady on a solo cruise, but I will say this, going on a solo cruise, I wouldn't mind doing that by myself, because I feel like that's something that, a lot of people should experience solo for the first time. But y'all, I'm so ready to go on a solo cruise next year. I think I might go with either Norwegian, or I did want to go with Carnival, I'm saying, for the turn up, you know what I'm saying? But, and we already know Royal Caribbean, you know what I'm saying, is the upscale bouginess of the sea. But Norwegian has some really good solo cabins. So if you are a solo traveler like myself and you want to go on a solo cruise, book with Norwegian. But anyway, I say all that to say, number one, I don't like it. I do not like being single. I am ready to have a woman's touch. There is a trend right now that is going on TikTok where it is the life without her trend. I had to turn it off. I'm not about to sit here and cry for strangers. Matter of fact, I'm not even happy for you. And matter of fact, I'm about to report you. Nice, but no. Like, it's called Life Without Her trend on TikTok. It is to die for. And it's just a bunch of guys showing the compare and contrast of not having their girlfriend and then having their girlfriend or their wife in their life. And it is just, I love it. I really love it because, like I said, I want a woman's touch right now in my life. You know what I'm saying? I am doing well with going to work every day, paying my own bills, traveling if I want to or need to. But, yo, I'm ready to have somebody. And so, I am kind of talking to somebody. We just started communicating, but we don't know. But that's what I would say, number one, about singleness, about where I am singleness right now, is Mark is not liking it. It doesn't mean that I don't love myself. So please do not come in my comments talking about get better at the gym, love yourself, but every now and then, I just like my weekends. I just be wanting to have a weekend where I'm looking forward to seeing the woman that I'm involved with, and us doing stuff, because I'm ready to plan. One thing about Mark gonna plan, Mark gonna lead, Mark gonna pursue. Dudes be talking about I ain't doing all that. I keep my mouth shut. You know what I'm saying? And then number two, how I feel about singleness and what I desire right now is, I'm not even gonna lie, I desire something new. I really desire something new. There was the girl that I went on a date with back in February. She said something. She was just like, she was like, I feel like all guys have a girl that got away. She was like, all guys have a girl that they messed it up with. And I was just like, yo, I would have to disagree. Like, at this point in my life, I want a clean slate. There is nobody in my past, definitely not my ex-girlfriend, but there is nobody in my past, no past fling, no past flung, no past love, no past rendezvous, no past crush. There is nobody that I have met that I have looked at and been like, yo, she was definitely the one that got away. Dang, I definitely messed it up. If she just give me one chance, absolutely not. Like, I feel like at this point in my life, I want a new love. I want to know what it is for God to to give me a fresh start with somebody, where you meet somebody, they don't know too much about you, but they learn you. Not only do they yearn you, but they learn you. They learn everything. They meet you, they learn you, and then they love you, and then y'all grow and evolve from there. That's what I want. You know what I'm saying? And I think that comes apart with, I don't know if anybody else have this experience of just old people coming back into your life. Like, and one of the things that I am praying for is, Lord, attract me to what is new. There was a girl that I kind of sort of was talking to years ago, and I keep running into this girl. Keep running. I ain't gonna say which one, but one thing Mark gonna do, Mark will attract somebody from the past. My friend Destiny was like, Mark love a blast from the past. Like, and it's just like, there have been nobody. And it's so funny because one of my friends, she said to me, she said, Mark, she said, I'm gonna say this to you. She was like, I feel like your problem is not physical attraction. She was like, because all of the girls that you have talked to or whatever, she was like, they have been fine. You know what I'm saying? She was like, but I just don't think none of them were the one. And I was like, yes, because when you are looking for something legitimate and you are looking for something long term, fine, don't get it. Oh, y'all done got quiet. Well, I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. I'm going to say it again. When you are trying to find something that's going to be worthwhile and something that's going to be approved in God's eyes, attraction is a big thing, but fine just doesn't cut it. Fine ain't fine enough. You know what I'm saying? And so, yes, I have come across some beautiful women that are fine, like women that just be like, girl, I don't even know what God was on. But that's not enough. You know what I'm saying? And so that's why I was just like, I want something new. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I want the fairy tale. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like, I want to walk in the store thinking I'm about to go in for peanut butter jelly and butter and eggs, and all of a sudden there's the love of my life, and I got to walk up and introduce myself, and we ride off in the sunset. I don't even care. That's what I want, But jokingly, but seriously, like, I want a new love. I want a love that's unfamiliar, where I don't come with baggage. You don't have baggage that you're holding on, but a love that is new. A love that feels like, yo, I ain't never felt this way before, right? And which leads me to number 3 about how I feel about being single, is the fact that I think I have always thought, like, one of my reasons for being single is location. Like, I do not believe that my woman is here in Ohio. I just don't. It's funny because I think location plays a big part. I remember I was working at a job 2 years ago, and I never forget this. One of my old coworkers, his name was Josh. He was like, and I never forget, he had said something. He was like, man, I be watching your videos. He was like, man, you a good dude. He was like, I just don't think you in the right circles. He's like, that's what I think it is. Now, this dude literally just got engaged to his girl in Europe. So this brother know what he's talking about, And he was just like, I just don't think you're in the right circles. And I was like, yo, because I think when we think of singleness, of long-term singleness with somebody. Be like, what's wrong with you? What is it? You know, what you got going on? But instead of what's wrong with you, is like, what is wrong? What is wrong with your environment? So I've always felt like, in order for me to meet the person I'm supposed to meet, or to just even have the life that I'm supposed to live, like I've always felt like it was meant for me to relocate. Just a short story. Last year, and I don't talk about it as much. Last year, I had applied for this job. I got laid off 2 years ago. And I had applied for this job last year in another state. And I'm not going to say what state, but I had applied for this job in another state. After that, I went on a fast. And I go on a fast, and I was just like, Lord, you know, I applied for this job, whatever. So I had met this prophet, and he had prophesied to me. He was just like, I don't know what it is. He was like, but this particular city is all around you. And I was like, yo. Now, the city that he said was the city of the job that I had just applied to. And that was the same week that I was fasting. There was no way that this man knew that. So I took that prophecy back to God. He was like, you need to move. And at the time, I was playing for a church, and he's prophesied he prophesied one specific thing about the church. He was like, God is telling you to leave this church. And at the time, I had really loved my church, and I still do. But at the time, I had really loved that church, and I was just like, yeah, no, I don't know about all that. But I had prayed that night, and I was like, Lord, he prophesied that this is going to happen if I stay in this city and if I stay at this church. And I was just like, Lord, I don't even know. I said, but if it is your will, I said, let them want to move forward with me. Let this job go through. Man, shortly after the job flew me out. The job flew me out, and I got the job. And now I will say, I made a mistake. Something happened with the job, and I couldn't move forward. It was something small, but and I had a decision to make at that time where it's like, do I still go to that city, or do I reapply for the job? And I was devastated. And when I tell you that everything that prophet said has come to pass, everything. Like last year, this time, I was fighting for my life. And I kept telling my friend, I was just like, all of this is just distraction of disobedience. I was like, because I know for a fact that God wants me in this city. Leading up to today, I have been through it, like with my car, with work. Life has just been crazy. One day I'm going to sit down and tell y'all, life been crazy. I got to finally move and be obedient to God to move to this new city. I said, because life, it ain't nothing working here. But that's a whole other conversation. That's not what we're talking about. But anyway, I say all that to say, now I'm working the plan. Like I'm picking up a new job, saving money, getting my money. That's a whole nother. Y'all don't care about that. But I really feel like location plays a part, because I just don't feel like my person is here. Even when I was in Miami, like the vibes were just like, man, listen, it just be different. You know what I'm saying? But number 4, also how I feel about being single is, now this is when I was like, I don't know if I want to share, but there are a lot of times where I just do not feel worthy. There are a lot of times where I just, as a man, like I don't feel worthy. And I think a lot of it comes from, I ain't gonna lie, like just having confidence of to protect it and to provide. Like growing up without a father, there are a lot of times where I will watch couples, reels and channels, and I'll see how the woman just, love that man and how she just trusts his leadership. And there are days where I do feel like, yo, why would a woman want to be led and be provided for by you? Why would a woman come in and love you unconditionally? Right? There are a lot of times I feel that way. And I said, Lord, this is what I want. Whoever the woman that you have called for me to marry, not only do I want to gain a woman, a wife, but I want her to have a father. But I want to gain a father as well, because I feel like marriage is about addition, right? And I was like, whoever her father is, I want him, as our families come together. And if the Bible says to honor your mother and father, I was like, I didn't grow up with my father, but Lord, I want you to give me a father that I can honor. I want you to give me a father that is worthy of honor. And so I was just like, Lord, whoever my wife is, I want you to let her have an honorable father where me and him have a good relationship, where he takes me in as his son and I take him in as my father, and I want to learn from him. I want to learn from him on how to love his daughter. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I want. There are a lot of times where I have to remind myself, like, God is transforming me into the person that I need to be for the woman that he has for me. And I feel like a lot of men don't talk about that. Like, every man is not super secure in, what society tells us we need to be super secure in. And there are a lot of moments where I just feel like, I don't know if I feel worthy, with me, trying to be where I need to be, which is why I am working on finances and working on just, my overall financial and health and wellness and physical health. But there are a lot of days I feel unworthy. But I have to remind myself that even in that, there is grace. At least I hope so. But yeah, so that's how I feel about where I am right now, about singleness, and just, where I am right now. I am working towards, moving my life forward as it relates to music. I am planning to take a self-defense class, you know what I'm saying? Because listen, we talk about provide and protect. Sometimes that gets practical. Y'all ain't gonna say nothing, that gets practical. And I feel like, as a man, you should be prepared and ready, to take action in the spirit, also in the natural, you know what I'm saying? So that is something I want to do too. And until then, I got my eye out, I got my eye on coming across a beautiful woman that I can approach. I did do a video on TikTok where there was a girl that I was crushing on. She rejected me, y'all. Last week, she was just like, nah, no thanks, sir. So she rejected me. And so if you want me to do a video just talking about rejection and telling you what happened, I don't know. Ain't nothing to tell. But I did do a short video about that. But that's all I got, y'all. That's all I got on just where I am with singleness. Listen, I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me today. Listen, let me know. Drop down in the comments. Let me know where you are in your singleness. Are you single? Are you taken? Are you waiting? Are you healing? What's going on with you? And y'all, I will catch y'all in the next video.